For decades, one of the world's darkest secrets has been hidden from view. A vast network of work prisons where starvation, torture, and death are not exceptions, but everyday routines. North Korea's hidden labor camps, shadowy places where entire families vanish into thin air, consumed by the darkness, never to return. These are not just facilities for the punished, they are places of slow, silent annihilation, where time itself becomes a weapon, eroding the human spirit with each passing day. Deep in the isolated, rugged mountains of North Korea, far from the gaze of the international community, lie some of the most terrifying and brutal places on Earth. Known as Kwan-li-so, political prison camps, they were created not only to confine, but to crush the human soul. Within these prison walls, it is not only the convicted who suffer. Entire families, children barely old enough to speak, and the elderly, frail and defenseless, are torn from their homes and sentenced to die for alleged crimes against the state. Their identities erased and their lives reduced to mere survival. These camps, invisible to most of the world, operate under the iron grip of a single force: fear. It permeates the air, infecting every interaction. Fear of disobedience, fear of being reported, fear of punishment that comes without warning. Fear that at any moment, you or someone you love might disappear into the void, never to be seen again. It's a fear so pervasive that even the act of thinking rebellious thoughts can feel like signing your own death warrant. What is life like inside these nightmarish camps? Imagine waking up each day in a world devoid of hope, where survival is the only goal, and every minute is a painful, exhausting struggle. Forced to labor from dawn until dusk, in unforgiving sub-zero temperatures, prisoners are systematically starved, deliberately kept alive with just enough food to prolong their suffering, but never enough to give them strength. They toil endlessly, breaking rocks, mining or farming barren land, knowing full well that their efforts will never lead to freedom. And if you falter, if your body gives way under the relentless burden, your fate is sealed. Collapse from exhaustion, and you cease to exist. Beaten into submission, tortured until there is nothing left, executed without trial. And in these forgotten places, you become nothing more than a memory. Or worse, forgotten entirely, buried in unmarked graves, or left for the elements to erase your existence as if you never were. But forced labor is only the beginning of the horrors within these camps. Torture is not just commonplace. It is a tool of control, used daily to break the minds and bodies of those trapped within. Prisoners are suspended by their wrists for hours, beaten into unconsciousness until they confess to crimes they never even dreamed of committing. Their fingernails are ripped from their hands. They are plunged into icy water, their breaths stolen by the cold. It is all designed to destroy any last shred of willpower, to make them believe that even their thoughts of resistance are futile, crushed beneath the weight of a system designed to ensure obedience through absolute terror. For the slightest infraction, punishment is swift and severe. A mere whisper of disobedience is enough to draw the wrath of the guards. But for those brave, or perhaps desperate, enough to attempt escape, the penalty is absolute death. Public executions are staged regularly before the entire camp, transforming death into a grotesque spectacle meant to both terrify and subjugate. These executions are not just a punishment for the condemned, but a message to the living that resistance is futile and the cost of defiance is your life. Prisoners, already broken by the grinding weight of hunger and labor, are forced to witness the brutal deaths of their peers, their eyes locked on the horror, knowing that the same fate awaits them should they ever dream of freedom. Escape, even in thought, is not an option. In North Korea, guilt is not an individual burden. It is a stain that spreads across entire bloodlines. If you are accused of a political crime, it is not just you who suffers. The regime extends its hand to your family as well. This is the doctrine of 3 generations of punishment, a perverse form of collective responsibility. Not only are you condemned, but your children, your parents, and even your grandparents are also torn from their homes, stripped of any rights, and condemned to a lifetime of relentless suffering. Entire family lines, blotted out in an instant, are sentenced to these labor camps, where survival is the only aim, and hope is a forgotten dream. Children, born within the prison walls, know nothing but this world of relentless cruelty. Suffering is their only inheritance, passed down like a curse from those who came before them. They grow up in darkness, never experiencing the warmth of freedom, never understanding what it means to play, laugh, or dream of a better future. Raised as slaves in a system designed to break them, they endure the same beatings, the same gnawing hunger, and the same soul-crushing despair that has consumed generations of prisoners before them. Their innocence is shattered long before they can even comprehend the reasons behind their suffering, a childhood stolen before it ever truly begins, replaced with a life of fear and torment. So why, despite the sheer horror of it all, does the world remain silent? How do these camps continue to thrive in the face of overwhelming evidence? The answer is as simple as it is devastating. North Korea has mastered the art of concealment. The regime denies the very existence of these camps, claiming that they are nothing more than lies spread by enemies of the state. And when someone dares to speak out, their voice is silenced with chilling efficiency, disappeared without a trace, imprisoned or worse. The walls of secrecy surrounding these camps are so thick, so impenetrable, that even the most determined observers struggle to see through them. It is a calculated manipulation of truth, designed to keep the world blind to the suffering within. But the truth cannot be erased. Satellite images captured from far above have unveiled the sprawling expanse of these camps, hidden in the most remote and desolate regions of North Korea. Brave defectors, having risked everything to escape, have shared their harrowing stories, testimonies of unimaginable suffering and brutality that cut to the very core of anyone willing to listen. And yet, despite the mountain of evidence, world leaders, bound by fear of political fallout, remain frozen, paralyzed by the cost of action. They do nothing. The fight for justice is far from over, but it is only just beginning. International human rights organizations, undeterred by the obstacles, are tirelessly calling for intervention. They demand that the global community rise up and take action before more lives are destroyed, before more families are torn apart. But as the clock ticks and the years pass, the question hangs in the air. How many more will suffer in silence before the world finds the courage to intervene? As you sit here, watching this, thousands of men, women, and children languish in North Korea's hidden work prisons. Their lives, stripped of dignity, play out in a continuous nightmare. They starve. They are beaten. They are forgotten. But it is not too late to act. There is still time to shine a light on their plight, to tell their stories, to make sure that their suffering does not go unseen before the darkness swallows them whole forever.